Yali Madat, all friends.
Yali Madat.
Yali Madat. So we will continue with our session now. So our today's topic is about tests in our lives. And I've been talking to some friends and I learned that there are friends who feel overwhelmed by the tests in their lives. Lots of worldly difficulties in the family, and they wonder why. So first, let us start with a farman of Sultan Muhammad Shah. Mullah made this farman in Manjurni, December 31st, 1893. And this farman, I'm sure you must have read. If not, then I would highly recommend you all to read this farman. This is farman number 20 from Kalam-e-Imam Mubin. In this farman, Mullah mentions a follower of Mullah who always prays that Mullah, Ya Mullah, I want to fight with you in the war. Give me a chance that I want to fight with you in the war. And that's how he keeps praying for literally 40 years. And a time comes when Mullah actually goes to his place and knocks on his door. He says, you had always been asking that you want to fight. It's time, let's go. He says, okay, I'm ready. And then Mullah takes him to where Mullah lives. And when he reaches there, he says, why don't I give you this house to live in and go rest and then we'll fight tomorrow. And then Mullah sends a maid to his place and then very tasty food. And then what happens that this man settles down there. He has a wife at home. He has different kind of tasty food. Now he's very happy. He's playing house. Now this Mollah's companion, they go to him after a few days and they tell him, Mullah is calling you, let's go fight. And he says, you know what, I don't have a horse. You know what, when I have a horse, then I'll fight. The next day, Mollah's companion go again and they tell him, okay, here is your horse, let's go fight. And he says, tell Mullah Bapa, fight today, I will fight tomorrow. And then Sultan Muhammad Shah says here, उस शख्स को दुनिया मीठी लगी थी क्योंकि उसको नई बीवी, रहने के लिए घर और खाने के लिए थाल मिले थे। उस वजह से वो लालच में फंस गया था। इसके बाद इमाम ने फरमाया, तुम जमात अपने लिए परख ना मांगो, रोजाना जमात खाने आकर दुआ पढ़ो और दुआ मांगो कि या अली हम पर परख नहीं डालना, तुम परख से हमेशा डरना। Now Mullah says that he loved the way he had a house, he had a wife, he had food. Now he is involved in the love of the family, and now he does not want to fight. And then Mullah says that never ask for tests, because whatever test I have put on your life, you are not able to fulfill that. So never ask for tests. In fact, he says that when you go into sajda, do pray that Mullah, please do not take my tests. So that's one thing. Farman. Now let's study Quranic verse, chapter 2, verse 155 and 156. And it says, and we will surely test you with something of fear and hunger and a loss of wealth and lives and fruits. But give good tidings to the patient, who, when disaster strikes them, say, indeed we belong to Allah and indeed to Him we will return. और हम किसी ना किसी तरह तुम्हारी आजमाइश करेंगे, दुश्मन के डर से, भूख से, मालो जान और फलों की कमी से, और उन सब्र करने वालों को खुशखबरी दे दीजिए जिन्हें जब कभी कोई मुसीबत आती है तो कह दिया करते हैं कि हम तो अल्लाह से आए हैं और अल्लाह के पास वापस लौट के जाना है. So Quran actually talks about that surely we will be tested in 5 things. And the first is fear. Fear Could be worldly fear, loss of name, loss of fame, loss of honor, worldly belongings, etc. Fear, any kind of fear. So let's talk about fear. There are two types of fears actually. Number one, the fear of people, which is called Beja. So anyone who is in any kind of test in today's time, all this what we are going to talk about applies to us. So whatever we learn, we will have to truly assess, evaluate, analyze ourselves. What is the test? Where are we stuck? Is it a test or is it a fear which we have kept it in our heart by our own self? Fear of people. What they will think of me? How would they see me? Will they like me or not? Will they love me or not? And there was an interesting story one of the friends shared. Now this friend who became very interested in actually true knowledge, started attending classes and became quiet because we learned that in order to kill the nafs, you talk less, you eat less and you sleep less. And you're always keeping your mind, your life tuned with your iman, your imam, learning true knowledge, doing your zikr, making sure that you are not sinning. You're very conscious, you're very mindful. Now this person, of course, it's about transformation of self. When you are changing yourself like that, people around you, they don't understand that. If you are not surrounded by like-minded people or like-minded family members, what happens? You are an odd one out. Now at that time, test comes on. Nobody likes you because whenever they talk to you, you are talking about zikr or some ilmi point. They don't want to be friends with you. So nobody likes you and they sideline you, kind of boycott you, and now you are kind of in the family, but you're an odd one out. And people find ways to make you feel bad. Oh, you are bhagat. Why would you live in the worldly life? You're a bhagat now. And if you were to tell them, they will say a few things to make you feel guilty as if you are not balancing your life or you are not taking care of your, worldly duties, which you are, but you are doing it in a very different way. Your demeanor is very different. People don't understand that. So what happens? Shaitan at that time puts a bazi. Bazi of what? Low self-esteem. Nobody likes you. Now, at this time, what happens? It becomes a test on every individual. What do we do? How do we fit in with family and friends so they like me? Because you feel lonely, because you're odd one out. And it was such an interesting sharing. I was like amazed by her sharing of this story. And I was like, you are so right. I was blessed to be surrounded by like-minded people that it was easier for me. I did not feel odd one out. But you're very right. This is very true. But the reason to tell you this story is that she was very right in her actions. But Shaitan, when knows the weakness in our heart, that we have this desire to be liked by others than your imam. What do? You pretend, you try to fit in. And when you can fit in the midst of this, there is a fear from people, fear of people. And that fear is called Beja. If they find out what is going on in my house, they will not like me. So I have to lie. I have to pretend. I have lost my job, but I don't want to tell people because they will judge me or they'll ask me. There are so many different reasons, dialogues which happen in our mind. But all these are fear and it is baseless. It is called Beja. Beja is actually given to us by Shaitan. A true mu'min who is walking on this path keeps on assessing herself and himself. Is this True fear or Khawf-e-Beja? Now the question one may ask, what is true fear? A true fear, a mu'min always has a true fear, and that fear is from Allah. That never ever I get detached to my Imam's name, that I'm moved away from Maula's Didar. That is the true fear. A mu'min always keeps this fear in his heart, and that's the reason we are able to become mindful of our actions, because we are fearing that, my Maula will not like me. I want to become someone which my Maula is proud, who Maula is proud at, or my Maula loves me. So when we think of Maula, our actions, our behavior, everything changes, our thinking, everything changes. But when we are thinking of others, it is Khawf-e-Beja. So Mu'min always has Khawf-e-Allah, not Khawf-e-Beja. Beja, non-existent. It's baseless. One should not have Khawf-e-Beja. So today when we sleep, when we check our pulse, as per Sultan Muhammad Shah's Farman, that when every night we have to check our pulse. And we have to check what actions we are doing to please others. Just so we fit in, just so we are liked by others. And is that of a value, of such importance that we are living a life of a lie or pretension? And we live in this fear, and Shaitan knowingly throws these traps on us to keep us in this fear, in this test, which is baseless. It should not be a reason for our worry. But our thoughts are constantly bound into thoughts of people like me or not, people like me or not. When we are into this circle, in this test, what happens? It gives us mental, psychological, and spiritual disease. How? Now, when I'm liked by people, I feel good. It's about me. I am somebody. When I am somebody, what happens? Shaitan immediately reads us. You like that. Let me give you ahankar. Let me make you proud, arrogant. And that's it. As soon as that thought came in, Mu'min stops from going further. A Mu'min is a mujahid, a warrior. Mu'min has to be so conscious, la fata illa ali la saif illa zulfikar. The talwar of Zulfikar always have to be in our hand. And through true knowledge, with Maula's mercy, we have to fight this shaitan and every thought. Mu'min is away from the fear of people, but he fears his Maula. Now, when we say this, it sounds easy. But in reality, when we are living in the life of society, it is hard. And all of us, we are like-minded friends, and we are here to help each other to improve, to make our faith, our iman firm, stronger than what it was yesterday. Now, when we are doing that, what we need to do is to trust in Imam, trust in his help, have always high ambition. How do we get to achieve where we want to get there? Through zikr, ilm, ibadat. When we are consistent in our action in doing that, doing this zikr, ilm, ibadat, Maula's reward is always there. In Quran chapter 3, verse 39 says, who delivered the message of Allah and feared him? And feared none except Allah. Allah keeps good account. ये सब ऐसे थे कि अल्लाह ताला के अहकाम पहुंचाया करते थे. Now when we are like-minded friends, what are we doing? We are reminding each other. Allah's message, become pious. और अल्लाह ही से डरते थे. Whatever I am thinking, my Maula is watching me. If my actions, if you may see me wrong, but what is inside me, that what matters. Because Allah is watching me and He is a good account keeper. He knows everything. So the fear of Allah is that I'm not distant and away from my Maula. That's the right fear. Chapter 10, verse 62 says that, behold, verily on the friends of Allah there is no fear, nor shall they grieve. Beautiful verse. याद रखो कि अल्लाह के दोस्तों पर ना कोई अंदेशा है, ना वो गमगीन होते हैं. They have no fear and they don't grieve. But in reality, in our worldly life, we have so many difficulties. How do we understand that? So we need to go back to that verse which we studied in the beginning, 155 Surah Baqarah, that surely Allah will test us. So why do we have these worldly difficulties in our lives? These difficulties are sent to us to help us elevate our ranks. This realization, this reminding only happens among those who are walking on the true path with true knowledge, gets reminded that we need to remember that these difficulties when we are given, it is Maula's mercy. Those who are friends of Allah, those who are friends of Allah, who are friends of Allah? We just discussed Tawfiq, Taid, Himmat, Yari. Those who seek friendship of Maula, they say it, Ya Maula, give your friendship. When we are seeking friendship of Allah, we accept that we will be tested. It is part of our life. It is given to us that we will be tested. We don't ask for the test, but He tests us. And it's a mercy which comes as a disguise of a test. So friends of Allah are tested, but they remember that this suffering, let it be disease, let it be loss of worldly wealth, or any other kind of test. Another friend shared the story about her mother, who is in a situation in the family being mistreated so badly, and this daughter who is here, she's crying and not able to help her mother out. But a Mu'min knows that these tests will be coming to my life. When these tests comes, how does a Mu'min behave? A Mu'min is always aware that these tests are for me to elevate my ranks. Now here when we say that, then another question arises. How do we distinguish between the test which has come from Allah, or it is something which we created in our life, something we did wrong? So it's a very simple answer. Whenever we are in difficulty, whatever difficulty we have, let it be loss of money, loss of a family member, any kind of loss you can think of, any kind of issue you have in your family. If due to that test, you are now remembering Maula more, remember it is a test from Maula. If a difficulty comes in our life and we have forgotten the Maula, and we are just thinking in that thoughts, we are living, repeating that tape in our mind, this has happened, that has happened, this has happened, continuously that thought circle is going on and on and on, and you are not remembering Maula, do know this is something which is done by ourselves. What happens? When Shaitan puts a bazi, a trap on us, he does not want us to remember Maula. So as soon as we walk on the path of Maula, he will send a trap. And we get into that trap, we forget, we start complaining. That's not a sign of a Mu'min. When a Mu'min never complains. When we start complaining, immediately whatever the rewards we were supposed to get from those tests are taken away because we complained about it. We were not sabir, we were not patient. So Mu'min will be patient and Mu'min will not complain. Now, how do we treat this issue of tests and fear in our lives? There are two ways actually, and our peers have taught us. So the treatment of fear, and fear can only be in our thoughts. Physically, there's nobody who's harming us, but it could be only in our thoughts. So fear also are in levels. There are degrees of fears. How do we treat all kinds of fear? There are two ways actually. And I'm sure you've heard of this physical. If physically one is sick, there are two treatments, right? And all the examples in our world are for us to learn the spirituality, because the physical life is example for us to learn about the spiritual life. So if physically somebody is sick, there are two kinds of treatment: allopathy versus homeopathy. So allopathy treats the disease through opposite, and homeopathy treats with the same energy. Let me give you an example to make it easy. For example, we do all know hot and cold theory. In summer, when we are very, very hot, we will drink cold drinks to keep ourselves cool down the temperature. Take a cool bath. Similarly, if there is a false fear, khauf-e-beja, what they'll think of me, will they like me or not, what do I do, how do I survive in society, whatever situation we are in. So when we are in false fear, khauf-e-beja, there are two ways to fight it. Either by zikr of Mawla or by his fear. How? What do I mean? Let me tell you by example of Ginan. Our peers have actually taught us. Let's take example of Peer Sardardin. And he says in one of the Ginan, Eji til bhar tulana khane ki dhar chalana. Yasha til til ka lekha liyana mere jeev ko. He says, oh believers, on that day, every deed will be weighed. Like even if it is a particle, whatever you did, a grain, everything will be weighed. And you'll have to walk on the edge of sword. Can we walk on the edge of sword? Can we imagine even ourselves walking on the sword? We won't be able to take one step. Our legs will cut, will bleed. What a difficult task our peers are teaching us. Our Mai Bapa is teaching us. That do know, believers, that day everything will be weighed. And you'll have to walk on the sword, edge of the sword. O Lord, my soul will have to give account for every bits, everything. And it will be like measured minutely. What should I do for my soul? And then Peer says, Eji tiya so karaniye suraj tapashe. Tiya kiya chipna, kiya dhundna mere jeev ko. There the sun shall terribly become 10,000 times hot. 10,000 times hot. What is needed there to be hidden or be searched? How will I hide there? How will I protect myself from that heat? I cannot hide there. Another verse. Eji pindne karan kya jivvane haro, samira jo lekha lesheji. For the sake of body, why do you forsake the soul? The Lord will take account of all your deeds. Why are you busy in this world? And then Peer says, Eji atma joun to kai na dise, samira jo lekha lesheji. When I think of my soul, I don't see anything else. Mawla will take account of my deeds. Another Ginan. Eji roje kiamat dado avshe ane avtare avtar sahib lekha re mangshe tame nisht jano nirdhar. O moments, the day of judgment will come and it will have many manifestations. The Lord will take account. Know this with conviction. It's happening. It's going to happen. Now how scared we are. We know how full of flaws and weaknesses we are. We forget Mawla all the time because we love this worldly life more. Such a scary situation. Now what happens? We are very scared. Now with this fear, what is our state of our mind? How long this fear will last or make me do what I need to do? Now look at the other approach. So one approach is that to deal with the fear with fear. And another approach is To deal with fear, you fall in love. The remedy of fear is ishq. Now look at this, Ginan. Again our peers are teaching. Peer says, ए जी हमसू रीस न करिए ओ प्यारा, हमको संग चलाओ मेरे साहिब. O my beloved, do not be angry with me. Do not be angry with me. Keep me in your company. O my Imam, now I am in love with you. ए जी आशिक तेरा तेरे साथ चलेगा, दोस्ती दिल भी चलाओ मेरे साहिब. O my Imam, your lover will remain with you. Please create our mutual friendship in our hearts. O my Imam. ए जी छेल छबीला सुनो अलबेला, मैया तू मन भी चलाओ मौला. Oh, the beautiful, listen. Oh, lively, vibrant, listen. Have mercy in your heart for me, Mawla. I am in love with you. ए जी चंचल चाला जोबन मतवाला, मोहब्बत मन में लाओ. Oh my Imam, you are full of mysteries, intoxicated and vibrant with youth, Mawla. Create love for you in my heart. Create love for you in my heart. Meaning there is lack of love. Ishq bhi Mawla se mangna hai. Because the ishq is the treatment of the fear. If we knew how to treat ourselves, if we had that ability, we would have treated ourselves. We are not able to. We are nothing. So we are telling Mawla Bapa, Mawla, give me your love. Please create your love in my heart, Mawla, so I can take care of these fears in my heart. ए जी तेरी रमज़ का पिया मैं हूँ दीवाना, इश्क अक्कल भुलाया. How beautiful it is. That my ishq has increased so much that akkal is gone also. There's no logic remain because I'm in love. That level of love we are seeking. So based on that verse in the Quran that Allah will test us with fear, hunger. What kind of hunger? We are not physically poor. We are all probably eating much more than what we need. Alhamdulillah. There's no physical poverty. But Allah says that I will test you with hunger. You know, we all are hungry, very hungry. Hungry for true knowledge. How many of us are willing to give time, invest time to fulfill this hunger? How many of us are seeking to find the true knowledge? There is a hadith that for knowledge, if you have to go to China, at that time China was too far away. Go to China. So there are times, in the time of Shariat, Tariqat, this hunger was too much. But during this time of Qiyamah, we are getting this food for our soul. But He tests us with this hunger too. So physical hunger and spiritual hunger. And then one can also say that I'm hungry for His didar too. Ruhani, Nurani didar. We are blessed with physical didar, alhamdulillah. How about Ruhani and Nurani didar? Loss of money. Physical money for sure. Always there's a physical example too. So loss of money. COVID-19 has put Jamaat in a lot of issues. So there's loss of money. Loss of life. Loss of health. Loss of fruit. So these are physical tests too and spiritual tests too. But today let's keep it simple and understand that in physical life, if we are dealing with loss of money, loss of life, loved ones, loss of health, all these are intended by Mawla, and it says in the Quran. So tell me, all of us who are going through different kind of tests, how is our behavior? He has said it very clearly that He is going to test us. Now, why do we have this test in our life? It is simply to remind us, to warn us, to wake us up, to bring us out of the sleep of ignorance. Anyone dies around us, same reason. If a disease comes, Same reason. And Mola has said in the Farman that if you lose your hard-earned money, do not cry. If you lose your one and only child, do not cry. Meaning, do not, because these are worldly things. Why would you cry on the worldly loss? And then he says, do cry for the didar. And cry in such a way as if a child is detached from his mother. Zaro katar rota hai. Now, if we all are living in this world and we are going through so many tests, how do we cope with this test, Mola? How do we cope with this test?